I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good day, Edwin Frondozo. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful day?
Just fantastic, Angel. Glad to connect. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. You feel the energy already. It's a podcaster. Before I let the cat out of the bag, please tell us, Edwin. Tell us, what part of the world are you in right now?
Right now, I am currently in Toronto, Canada, right downtown. So I have an awesome view of the CN Tower. If you're anyone listening familiar with Toronto, it's the biggest, one of the tallest towers in the world. So get to wake up to that every day.
Sweet. And which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time?
It's funny. That's a great question, and I'm thinking it's either my entrepreneurship or my podcasting, my podcast that I launched earlier this year. So I believe it's one of the two.
Yeah, BLP, the Business Leadership Podcast, right?
That's right. Yes.
There we go. Yeah, tell us a bit about that, and then let's jump into the entrepreneurship part.
No, 100%. I mean, the podcast was more on a hypothesis in terms of there are people within business who want to learn from these business leaders. So, for example, if you're in a Fortune 100, the CEO or any of the C-levels are just people, but they moved up as well. So if you're a first-line employee, you want to hear from these people because you probably never interacted with them ever in their life. These are people in your organization that you should be able to connect to or talk to. But now this is giving them and making these people more real, like real people. And you know what? They actually started on the ground like us as well. So that's what it is, and it seemed to get some good traction. And also, I'm able to connect with amazing entrepreneurs as well. So not only entrepreneurs, but also business executives as well.
Yeah, which is a great idea. There definitely is a disconnect that occurs so much now with the automation of so many things. You creating that opportunity for my business exec or my CEO to be in my earbuds is truly a grand opportunity, isn't it?
I think so. So I'm having fun with it. Finding that I'm learning amazing things. I mean, these are true professionals leading hundreds, thousands of employees, and it's just great to hear from them.
So where did the idea come from to do that exactly?
Well, the idea came about, believe it or not, 12 months ago. If you told me that I would have a podcast, and I actually just won an award recently here in Canada from the Online Publishing Awards, the best business podcast, I would never have believed you, Angel. It would be like you're pulling my leg. There's no way. But I was reading a book at the time. It's an author named Jonathan Fields. He's out of New York. He wrote a book called How to Live a Good Life. So Jonathan, if you're listening to this, I need to get you on the podcast. But Angel, you're probably the type of guy that reads a lot of books or a lot of self-improvement. But
I do.
This book specifically had an exercise. And I never do exercises in these books, but it was an exercise that was like, what's your killer app? What do people know you about? So I'm like, I don't know. Because if there's a disconnect, maybe you're not happy. So I actually did it. And it's a very scary exercise to email all your friends, your colleagues, your business partners, your clients, anyone that you've ever interacted and ask them, hey, what do you know me for? What's my killer app? And it was an interesting exercise. And at the same time, I got interviewed on a podcast as well. So I'm not going to go into the super long story, but that's, I think, where the idea spun from.
So what was the feedback from those that you did email?
Oh, man. So really scary exercise. Two things that I learned. The people that you think are going to reply don't. And the people that do reply, you had no expectations that they were going to, and they give you the most insight.
Wow.
It was overwhelmingly the same message, saying that, Edwin, you're trustworthy. I come to you for advice. You're networked. You're a people connector. So that's sort of underlying that. Oh, this is amazing, and that's sort of where maybe doing a podcast started coming into play.
That's intriguing. So who did you learn that from? Like, is it someone in your family or friend in terms of you being that person, that trustworthy, networked individual?
Oh, it's tough. I think the networking and being likable, I think, is from my mother. My father is entrepreneurial. So he's always someone always working on things that he believes in, whether it's monetary value or not. So this is very being brought up within the Philippines. He's Filipino, I'm Filipino, but his father, my grandfather, was always about do the right thing. But I think he tells me now later in his life that doing the right thing sometimes doesn't bring you economic success as well, because it's hard to always live on the live the high, and not the high life, but taking the high road, because business is kind of is is dog world, right? So
Yeah, it's compromise where you don't bend but you stoop sometimes.
it's true, and it's, for me, it's a struggle, because I still try to. I think the values that my father instilled on me, I have it, and I try to do the right thing always. And I'm doing my thing. I'm living life the way I want to. I may not have that economic success at this point, but people look to me like I'm a success because I'm doing everything I want to be doing. So it doesn't matter, right? So
Yeah,
it's a struggle and it's a balance, and it's really understanding what you want in life, right?
Now tell us one other thing that you've done, Edwin, consistently over the last 3 years.
3 years, I would probably say running. I run a lot. I just completed the Chicago Marathon recently. It was my third marathon.
Wow.
And running is a mental exercise outside of physical, because it's all mental training, and that's something I've been doing very consistently in terms of I guess work-life type balance.
Just to my memory, before I forget, congratulations on your award, right? For the
Thank you
best
so
business podcast, and as well as your third marathon. Why would you suggest to someone that's listening that they do what you've done by incorporating the thing you love with your strengths?
I mean, ultimately, it's happiness. I mean, everyone's always striving to be happy, and they might be looking in the wrong avenues. But I mean, once you start filling your life with things that make you happy, or even relating it to grouping it up together with what you do every day, I think you find yourself in a better place. You're not searching for fake happiness through consumerism or something like that. So I mean, it's a simple answer, and I think it's an obvious one, but that's definitely what I suggest to people. It's not easy though.
Amazing audience, we are live with Edwin Frondozo again. He is the podcast host of the Business Leadership Podcast. Edwin, let's switch gears for a moment now, and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water.
Nice.
Edwin, what is your earliest childhood memory?
It's funny you asked me this, because I have a young daughter now. She's 17 months old right now.
Congratulations, a third time.
Oh my God, my life is getting crazy now. But my earliest memory is, I don't know how old I was, but I remember being in my crib, and my father was playing the guitar, and it's pretty clear. And I think there's photos of that around that time, so I think that's why it's clear. But that's sort of one of my earliest memories around that time. And I remember around the same time, I used to watch my sister walk to school with my grandfather, because we lived in an apartment here in Toronto, in the suburbs of Toronto, and we used to watch them walk to school. So those are the two, actually. I gave you two clear memories.
That's great. So how old do you think you were?
Well, the very first one, looking at my daughter now, oh man, I would probably say about the same, either 12 months to a year and a half. I'm not sure.
That's intriguing.
But it's very young, and I'm someone who doesn't have very clear memories. If you were to ask my sister, she tells me I don't remember anything, but I do remember that. So it's interesting to me.
Yeah. Why do you think it's so clear, and how do you see it connecting to who you are today?
I think it's just being really close with the people you love, enjoying, having a good time, singing, laughing. I think those are the type of values that I'm trying to instill in my daughter as well. So I think that's where it stems from, for sure.
Can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Yes, sure, 100%.
I love the idea of the communication that goes unseen, that then creates a platform, if you would, for so much more. And that looks like your father playing the guitar for you, which is building trust. That looks like your grandfather walking your sister to school, which builds trust. And it's the unseen language, right? The unseen support, but it's definitely there, if you would. Not the unseen, but the unspoken. My apologies.
Right.
The unspoken. And to see that you now are actually smack in the middle of helping those that do not have that same spoken understanding of the communication in the business world, be it the CEO who doesn't have the opportunity to speak with his employees, and that you're giving them the opportunity to communicate through the podcast is pretty fascinating to me.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate that the interpretation. It's amazing to me and really makes me think about all that and all the actions that I'm doing in front of my daughter. So it just blows my mind, actually.
If we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
12 years old, I would probably say there's this song called Back to Life. It was from Soul to Soul, I think. I don't know if you know the song, but it was a very like a hip song. And the reason why I remember it is we were on a road trip. I was in a road trip, one of my first road trips with a friend of mine that I grew up with, and I went with his family. And it was all the way to Florida, from Toronto to Florida, which is like a 24-hour drive. And this is at the time when I had the cassette tape, so I was pretty young at the time, and this is a long time ago. So that's probably one of my favorite songs at the time. 100%.
Yeah. So that song goes like back to life.
Yeah, you got it. Back to reality. Yeah, man.
That's amazing. It definitely does connect, right? I've been listening to that song for a couple of days now.
I like that.
Yeah, my wife could attest it. Like I've just put, because I think it's so important to understand, get back to life, right? Back to reality, back to the here and now. That's amazing. All right, my friend.
I love that you were listening to that.
Yeah, it works, right? It all connects, doesn't it? It all connects. Yes. Well, Edwin, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there is a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Edwin, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Yes.
Are you married?
Yes.
Do you have children?
Yes.
Do you believe in God?
I do.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
I do.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No.
How about 3 hours a week?
Maybe not.
What about screen time, the phone and or the computer? More than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Ooh, I'm probably 8 hours at least.
If you had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents Edwin Frondozo, what would you say that is?
I would say real.
Love it. Edwin, this has been a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
I'd say check out the podcast. Let me know what you think. And Angel, thank you for, this mission that you're doing. It's amazing. I'm glad to be a part of it.
You are welcome. The Business Leadership Podcast. Edwin, again, great pleasure. Thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.